when liquidation starts, it will go over to the auction house. And the way the auction works is a Dutch auction. So you start auction and then go down. It will call the function. Users will be able to call the function bid. And then when the user calls bid, it will go back to the lending term contract to call on bid and does some calls to other contracts. I think the interesting part was that if you go over to right a little bit, how the collateral is priced without an oracle, and it's done by Dutch auction. So remember that one of the conditions for the loan to get liquidated is that the user has not done a partial repayment. In that case, it will go to the auction house. And the way the pricing for the collateral is determined is that we do a Dutch auction first. So there's three points in the auction. Liquidation start. When it starts, the bidder will receive 0 collateral, and he'll have to pay all of the debt. Over time, to the midpoint, the amount of collateral that the bidder will receive will become 100%. And at the midpoint, after the midpoint, the amount of collateral that the bidder will receive is 100%, and also the amount of loan that he has to pay will decrease over time, so that at the end of the auction, he'll be able to get the collateral, 100% of the collateral for almost no debt. But I do think that there was a condition that you cannot actually the loan free. So before the auction expires, he'll be able to get 100% of the collateral for almost free.
Yeah.
So this is how the price of collateral is determined.
It's very interesting and very good explanation, Taz. Thanks. Basically, there is once someone calls bid, that's it. The auction is done. But you don't have incentive to call bid in the beginning of the auction because you will just pay all the debt and get very little amount of collateral. So when, let's say, at this point it becomes profitable, then you will call bid and you will get a collateral and pay the debt. Here, if no one called until now, then it's probably very profitable. So you can call this, you can basically call the build function and get a very discounted collateral because you pay less of the debt and you get all the collateral. So yeah, it's a very interesting pricing. And as you can see, this is just an example of market price that because the collateral is obviously moving, right? Compared to the debt. The tokens are moving like ETH and GUSDC. ETH moves in price. GUSDC might also move in price if the peg is being broken. So there are a lot of parameters that are changing, and this is how the pricing happens. Another interesting thing that is different from other lending protocols is what parameters define whether a position can be liquidated. Because in Aave, if you remember from the classes, we have loan to value. Let's say we deposited 100K, we borrowed 50K, then our loan to value is 50% because we borrowed 50% of what we deposited. And what we deposited might move in price and what we borrowed might move in price. So this loan to value is moving. And once it gets to liquidation threshold, let's say what happens when your loan to value is 80%, this could be your liquidation threshold, that's where you can be liquidated. That's how it works in Aave and Compound, and how they know the ratio between the assets is using oracles. Here, they don't have oracles, so they don't know what is the ratio between the collateral token that you deposited to the credit token that you got. So the way they determine whether a position can be liquidated or not is what was the last time that you repaid some of your debt. So there is like a minimum repayment, which could be 30 days, 40 days, 90 days. And if you didn't pay even a little bit, and there is also minimum repayment. For example, 10% of your debt, you have to pay no later than 60 days. So if 60 days passed and you didn't pay 10% of your debt, you can get liquidated. This is just an example. Depends on the parameters of the protocol, of the lending term. And that's how it works. This is one criteria to get liquidated. The other one is when a lending term is being deprecated. The lending term equals gauge. This lending term is bad. It creates bad debt because the collateral token moved too much. Then the guild tokens, the governance is voting to offboard this lending term. And when it's getting offboarded, then all the positions can get liquidated. That's how it happens. So it's completely different than any other lending protocols that you are familiar with, both the criteria, whether a position can be liquidated, and also how it's being priced. So there are a lot of new concepts that I've never seen in any other protocols, and that's what makes this new, interesting, but also a bit complicated.